Good night, everybody, and welcome once again to another Line 5 Live podcast. I'm your host, Yuri Araman Kemp, here in the good old Nassau, Bahamas. And thank you for joining me again. It's a good Friday night. It was a beautiful Friday over here in the sunny isles of the Bahamas. And I had a great day today, man. I had a great day. So what's been going on with you guys? How's everything with you guys? I hope everything's okay. As you start to log in, as you start to come in, please, if you have not done so, like, share, and subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube page and Twitch page. Lime Vibe 77. That's Lime Vibe 77 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So we're on all those three platforms right there. Thank you for joining me again for another Lime Vibe Live podcast. We got a few things to talk about tonight. The first thing is that, this is going to be a crime and punishment edition. This is the Lime Vibe crime and punishment edition because we have a lot of crime stories to talk about tonight. A lot of high crimes. But first, let's talk about this European Union removing the Bahamas, Belize, and Seychelles, and the Turks and Caicos Islands from their non-cooperative jurisdictions for tax purposes list, or the blacklist. They don't call it the blacklist anymore because it's not good to say blacklist. So they want to use these stupid little euphemisms, the non-cooperative jurisdictions for tax purposes list. So long and so boring. But really and truly, it's just a tax. It's just a blacklist. That's all it is. They removed these countries from the blacklist because of their ongoing work with regard to tax transparency and their willingness to implement a corporate income tax. Well, the Bahamas hasn't done so yet, but they just said that the willingness to do so and to be more transparent with regard to some of these multinational companies here in those countries, and particularly with regard to the release of information on beneficial ownership in some of these jurisdictions. These people have been avoiding taxes in Europe. We've been giving our books over to European regulators when they've asked about who is here hiding their money. And so we're off the blacklist. And that's a good thing because we want the European Union off our backs. Because if they still have control of most of the world's finances and we need access to those finances, that's going to be a real big deal. Okay? But countries still in the region on the blacklist are Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Panama, Trinidad and Tobago, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Okay, so while we're now removed off the blacklist and we have been sharing our information with the European Union regulators, these other countries are still on the blacklist. So they're still holding firm. Personally, I think the European Union can take a hike, but I'm not sitting at the table dealing with these discussions, so I'm not sure exactly how, in particular, these things have been played out with regard to our authorities here, but the EU is just being annoying now. And the United States wouldn't stand up to them. The United States, neither Britain would stand up to them. Well, the Britain stood up to them for their own good when they had the Brexit a few years back. And that was good. But they need to stand up for the rest of these other smaller jurisdictions who are being attacked by the European Union. It's a fundamental breach of our right to development. We can't make money. You're closing down industries and our sectors because you want us to monitor your multinational companies that you can't monitor yourselves. How is that fair? That's not fair. Just give me 1 second. That's not fair at all. Okay? And we've just kowtowed to the European Union so long now that we just keep on going along with it. You know, we're the go along, get along people. Right? The European Union list of non-cooperative jurisdictions for tax purposes is a part of the European Union's work to fight tax evasion and tax avoidance within the European Union. It is composed of countries which have failed to fulfill their commitments to comply with tax good governance criteria within a specific time frame, and countries which have refused to do so. Okay? So, their European Union has taxed themselves out of competition, right? Taxed themselves out of competitiveness. And so they want us now to chase around their multinational corporations that have been running from their jurisdiction because of high taxes. They want us to now monitor their companies for them. That's what they want us to do. And we're doing it. We're doing it. So, as I said, the Bahamas, Belize, and the Turks and Caicos Islands will be removed from the blacklist, the European Union's blacklist. And so, how you may feel about that. But Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Panama, Trinidad and Tobago, and the U.S. Virgin Islands are still on the list. So, God go with those countries. Like I said, this is going to be a crime and punishment edition tonight. We have a lot of people who have either been convicted of crime or they've really convicted of crime, or they're waiting to be convicted of a crime. The first up, we have the former Prime Minister of Dominica, Edison James, who is facing incitement charges, and he's been granted bail in the court of Dominica for 50,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars after the matter was earlier sent to the High Court. So this stems back from a situation where they had a rally. Him and the leader of the opposition at the time was, who was it? The leader there was Lennox Linton, along with the current UWP leader, United Workers' Party leader, and economist Dr. Thompson Fontaine. They said a bunch of reckless stuff about Roosevelt Skerritt, and Roosevelt Skerritt got sick of him. Edison James is 80 years old, man. He's 80 years old. And you're putting him in front of the court, charges. Something is wrong in Dominica, man. Something is wrong altogether. That's a total lack of respect by Roosevelt Skerritt. When you see former politicians, especially prime ministers, being brought before magistrates' courts, that doesn't speak to justice. Doesn't speak to a good carriage of justice. That speaks to a fundamental breakdown in society, Dominica. That speaks to a fundamental breakdown in the political structure. They're heading towards a dictatorship. Okay? And my friends in Dominica, they've warned me about Skerritt for the past, 5-6 years now. But, it's coming to a head now. When you say you have no respect for your opposition members and the political opponents, you're heading towards the dictatorship, man. Something's wrong in Dominica. Something is wrong in Dominica. It's already changed. I've seen it. That's not to say what Edison James has done was right or wrong. I'm just saying that you typically don't go after your former prime minister like that and drag him for a magistrate's court. If anything, really, they have free reign to say what they want. Another crime and punishment story. The former premier of the British Virgin Islands, Andrew Fahey, he was found guilty of cocaine trafficking and racketeering charges in the United States. And he faces up to life in prison now in the United States for trafficking cocaine to the United States. I don't know if you guys remember the story. Him and this director of customs, the comptroller of customs, Ogilvie Maynard, and her son, Kareem Maynard, they were all traveling to the United States, and they were hitting up with a DEA informant who they were trying to arrange a cocaine deal with. And so Fahey was convicted after the 12-member jury returned guilty verdicts on him in under 4 hours to import a controlled substance, conspiracy to engage in money laundering, and attempted money laundering, and interstate foreign travel and aid of racketeering. That's a heavy charge, man. The 7-day trial featured lengthy testimony from alleged co-conspirator Olin Veen Maynard, and the 12-member jury in Miami unanimously convicted Fahey of each of the 4 counts against him: conspiracy to import more than 5 kilograms of cocaine, conspiracy to engage in money laundering, attempted money laundering, and foreign travel in aid of racketeering. So Fahey is pretty much, screwed. He's screwed. He was living with his daughter in the United States in Florida for a while until his trial came up. But his sentencing is going to be in March now. And so we just have to wait to see what happens. Okay? And from one drug story to another drug story, we have the former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, on trial in the U.S. for drug trafficking charges as well. He's been a good friend and an ally of former U.S. President Donald Trump. And now he's on the other side of the law. Hernandez is the first former head of state to face drug trafficking charges in the United States since former U.S. ally, the Panamanian strongman General Manuel Noriega, over 30 years ago. Well, now we have him joining Andrew Fahey as well. The trial will arguably be the biggest test for the Drug Enforcement Agency's strategy to bring into account public officials who facilitate drug trafficking in the United States. These are high. The DA isn't playing, man. They're going after leaders, world leaders. We have the former premier of the British Virgin Islands. Now we have the former president of Honduras. That's some serious business right there, man. Hernandez, however, has dismissed accusations as retaliation by the cartels who have set up this elaborate scheme for the Drug Enforcement Agency to just slander him and just drag him into all of this. And the U.S. authorities, they have strong evidence. Once the feds get you, they have a pretty strong case that you've been involved in what they say you've been involved in. And people, they have a 97% success rate when you get to the feds. So there's really nothing much you can do about these kinds of things. Okay? So that's our crime and punishment edition tonight. So, yeah. These guys are pretty bad boys, man. But if you've been trafficking drugs in the United States, they've been taking it very seriously, then you got to face consequences. I wish the United States government could get as serious with regard to them trafficking guns to the Caribbean. I want them to get serious about that. Let's stop some of these gun manufacturers from getting guns into the hands of these young boys, causing this massive wave of murders. All throughout the Caribbean, from St. Vincent and the Grenadines to the Bahamas. We have the murders are high. The bodies are piling up. People's daughters and children and sons are being killed in the streets because of gun violence. Then we have our entertainment story for tonight. I don't know if you guys have heard Wendy Williams, the popular talk show's Wendy Williams, has been diagnosed. Well, Wendy Williams Hunter, she's married. She's been diagnosed with dementia and aphasia. And so that's why you haven't been seeing her on television or seeing any interviews with her. So, I don't know. I'm going to play this for you right now. I don't know if you guys have dealt with anybody who has dementia, but it's a real serious disease. Let's listen to a clip from Inside Edition. They talk about Wendy Williams' condition.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Wendy Williams always said she wanted to come back to daytime television, but she has an even bigger challenge than anyone would have imagined. We're learning that the former talk show host has been diagnosed with a form of dementia. Stephen Fabian has details.
Heartbreaking news. Wendy Williams is suffering from dementia and aphasia, the same disorder that has stricken actor Bruce Willis. In a press release issued today under Wendy's name, her care team reveals after undergoing a battery of medical tests, Wendy was officially diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia. It says aphasia is impacting Wendy's language and communication abilities, and it calls her dementia a progressive disorder impacting behavior and cognitive functions. The news broke just moments before The View came to an end today.
We wanted to update you on some news that has just broke concerning Wendy Williams. Wendy and her care team just released a statement that she's been diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia. Our hearts go straight out to her.
Wendy's care team says the diagnosis came after the legendary talk show host underwent a battery of tests here at Weill Cornell Medicine in New York City. That information was released as speculation mounted about her whereabouts. Now, right now, she's in an undisclosed facility known only to her court-appointed guardian. Even her own family says they have no idea where she is. Wendy's niece, Alex Finney, appeared on The View promoting the upcoming Lifetime documentary, Where is Wendy Williams?
Her ultimate decision was that everybody's telling my story, no matter how painful it is. I want to tell it.
She didn't say a word about the dementia diagnosis, which was announced by Wendy's PR team. We spoke to neurologist Dr. Leah Kroll.
This is a progressive disorder, and there is no known cure or medication that we could give to slow the disease process down. And so, in general, things will gradually get worse with time.
Bruce Willis was forced to retire from acting after his diagnosis in 2022. His family gives regular updates on his condition and shares heartwarming video of him, like this birthday celebration.
Right at it. Oh.
You really have to hand it to Wendy Williams and Bruce Willis in terms of how generous and brave it is of them to come out with this. This is not a diagnosis that's easy to be open about at all, and they're doing us such a beautiful service by drawing attention to it.
In this just released clip from the documentary, you see Wendy like you've never seen her before, without her signature glamorous wigs. The documentary is so raw and so revealing that Wendy's niece was asked if the former talk show host is being exploited.
How do you respond to that?
Well, I respond to that by saying I was not paid. Right. Sitting here today, I haven't taken a dime. I'm not getting paid off of this. This is literally just a labor of love and fighting for your family.
The Lifetime special Where is Wendy Williams airs in 2 parts this Saturday and Sunday.
So there you have it, Wendy Williams suffering with dementia. I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with anybody with dementia before, but it's a humiliating disease. It's a humiliating disease. It renders the person incapable of doing anything for themselves. Sometimes they get bedridden, and, it just gets, like how the doctor said, it gets worse. It gets worse and worse and worse, man. It gets worse and worse and worse. There's nothing you can do for the person. They stop eating. They stop communicating. You have to be up and down to the hospital all the time because they either have starved themselves to a point where they have to take an IV, and they start to scream sometimes out of sheer lunacy and they start to dig into their anus and start to smear, shit all over the place. It's a humiliating disease. And they start to ramble and mumble incoherently. And what's the scariest part? The scariest part of this is that sometimes you'd walk in and you would see them just staring into space. It's this wild look. And you wonder what the hell's going on in their mind. There's absolutely nothing. That's just how the disease renders a person incapable. They can't defend themselves. They're out of it. They're out of it. And I pray for anybody that's dealing with it. I pray for Wendy Williams' family and her caretaker for dealing with her with this dementia and aphasia disease, and Bruce Willis' family as well. We need to pray for all of them. I've seen it happen. I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes. And the commercials and the movies don't do dementia justice, how seriously intense that disease is. Okay? It's a humiliating disease. I pray for anyone that's dealing with that, with any family member. Wendy Williams is only 59 years old. And they say that affects up to about 10% of persons under 59 years old. And so she's a rare case. And that's how you saw her eyes there bucking out. You saw her eyes there looking into space. That's just how it is with some of these people with dementia. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. They're just looking into this, and they'll sit right there just looking into space. And you think she's just being coy, you think they're just playing around. No, they're really serious. They're trying to remember. They're trying to put themselves in a position where they can actually communicate with you. They're trying their hardest to communicate with you. They're trying their hardest to tell you something. And it really gets them exhausted. And they're trying their hardest to fight. And sometimes they know they're out of it. Most people with dementia know they're out of it. But they can't do anything about it. And they understand what they're dealing with. Oh, it's a real humiliating disease. I wish that on nobody. That's how bad it is. Okay? But that's enough of Wendy Williams for the time being. Let's recap what we talked about tonight. It was a short show, but it was, like I said, a crime and punishment show. We talked about the European Union finally getting off the backs of the Bahamas, Belize, and the Turkish Caicos Islands in the region, but they still got the foot on the necks of Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Panama, Trinidad and Tobago, and the U.S. Virgin Islands with regard to this blacklist, and they're pushing everybody to move towards a corporate income tax as well. And they're telling you, oh no, we're going to let you collect corporate income tax, and we want you to remit the money back to us and give us information on beneficial ownership. We want you to tax these jurisdictions so we can know exactly where they are and so we can get our tax money from them. And now they're giving you all these humongous figures that you could get from corporate income tax. You get $100 million here, $1 billion there, that, blah, 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 all that bullshit, right? They just sick, man, in Europe. They're looking for another revolution, mind you. They're looking for another revolution. So we'll see what happens over there. Greedy bureaucrats always run themselves in the ditch. And what really should happen is that some of these multinational corporations stop funding these politicians who keep on working against their interests. Because they work against our interests as well. So we should start giving money to these bureaucrats. Let's see if they can run a campaign without any money. How about that? So that's our first story. The second story was, former Prime Minister of Dominica, Edison James, has been granted $50,000 bail in Dominica against charges of incitement. At a rally, him and UWP leader Thompson Fontaine and former opposition leader Lennox Lynn they were saying some reckless stuff about Roosevelt Skerrit, the Prime Minister. So we wish them all the best, and they call for resignation of Roosevelt Skerrit. So what's in that to be so upset about? Like I said, Dominica's looking is heading towards a dictatorship. You typically don't go after your former prime minister in that fashion, at that level. Even if he did do something, you just kind of leave that alone. But Roosevelt Skerrit really putting his foot on the necks of all the opposition inside his country. I thought he was supposed to step down after this term, but look, he's going for another round. He's unstoppable, man. He's unstoppable. We also talked about the former British Virgin Islands Premier Andrew Fahey being found guilty of drug trafficking and racketeering inside the United States. He stands up to get life in prison for drug trafficking in the United States. Him and his co-conspirator Oleanne Vine Maynard and her son Kadeem Maynard, they were all found guilty of drug trafficking in the Miami court and unanimously convicted him. Fahey was out on bail, living with his daughter up until the time of the conviction early on this week, and he has sentencing sometime in March. And he can face up to life in prison. That's the former premier of the British Virgin Islands in the United States facing, life in prison. How scary is that? to come from so high to be dropped to so low. But Fahy had some issues as well. He had some character issues as well too. He was talking reckless against the former Governor General of the British Virgin Islands, Gus Jaspert, and they had a big falling on the big row. I know it was going to end well for him. And so he's being monitored for a while before they actually nabbed him in the United States, drug trafficking. I guess the money's just too much to really pass up. And so he's screwed. He's gonna serve time for sure. He's screwed. How much time? I don't know. But he's screwed. And we also have the former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, also, facing drug trafficking charges in the United States. He hasn't been convicted as yet, but he's facing those charges. And wow, that no one since Manuel Noriega has really faced, the wrath of the United States government in regard to drug trafficking. At least a leader has been, has not been. That was over 30 years ago, Manuel Noriega. And boy, that was a time. That was a time. The Panamanian strongman General Manuel Noriega. He was wrapped up in the Iran-Contra scandal with Oliver North. They were trafficking drugs. The CIA and the U.S. military, they were trafficking drugs in and out of Panama. They helped get money for the Contras in Nicaragua. All right? And get money for the Iranians. It's just one sordid affair after the other. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do with Juan Hernandez, but I hope he makes it out better than what Fahy did. Then we also had other story, entertainment story. Wendy Williams has been diagnosed with dementia. And God go with Wendy Williams, because I understand exactly what her family is dealing with. I could see what she may be going through at this time as well too. May God be with her and strengthen her. In the name of Jesus, I ask. And all those who are suffering with the disease dementia. Because it's really a humiliating, debilitating disease. It has ripped someone of their entire strength and their cognitive abilities. It renders them helpless. Some get bedridden. They lose their appetite. They start to do weird things. And there's nothing you can do to really see exactly how they actually got to this point. And there's no cure for it. There's no cure for dementia. So you're just going to see the people your loved one just get progressively worse. As Wendy Williams' family are going to see her get progressively worse with this disease, this dementia disease. And I pray for her, man. I pray for her. She has the money to take care of herself. What about all those other persons who have to take care of their loved ones by themselves? No financial support. No support. We need more forums of people who are battling with this disease. Not just for the disease, the person who have the disease themselves, but the family members who have to deal with this trauma. Because it's really a traumatic thing to watch your loved one just dissipate in front of your eyes. It's a real tragedy. It's really heartbreaking to sit there and watch them die like that. May God go with Wendy Williams and the rest of people suffering with dementia. So, ladies and like I said, that was a short show. It was a crime and punishment show. Please, if you have not done so, please like, share, and subscribe to our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch page, Lion Vibe 77. That's Lion Vibe 77 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And there's a link inside the description as well. So if you have not done so, please click the link and give something to the Lion Vibe Live podcast. Anything that moves your heart, whether it's $5 or $50,000, we would greatly appreciate it. So thank you for tuning in for another Lion Vibe Live podcast. We'll be back again next Friday, God willing. We'll be back. Bye.